30. He's almost at 3 o'clock here. And when he goes back, there's a little bit of twist. And when he comes through, the one thing I noticed is that he keeps the cup in his lead wrist, and his back of his lead hand, like the knuckle pads, are basically pointing skyward, just like the face.
Yeah.
Because yes, if the handle's back of the ball and your body too much, you're scooping, flipping, coming over the top, not like the normal faults. But if the handle's in a certain position relative to the face, just after impact, after you've taken the divot and bottomed out properly, like that is the secret spot of the swing.
Is I understand that the golf swing is 90% hands and arms. It used to be, like back in the 20s and 30s with Harry Vardon and Henry Cotton and all these guys, they were saying that it was 90% hands and arms. Where did that get lost? Like, why? Why did we lose that? How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Cause and Effect podcast, where we introduce the cause and effect relationships that exist in golf in relation to the hand to handle to club relationships. Episode 32. Got our compact clubs here. We still got a couple of these left. They're going fast, though. I think I said in the last episode that, we had about 15, 20 left. Now we're getting down to about 2 or 3. So go get them before they're gone. And we'll be bringing them back, like we said. But yeah, we got a good episode coming up for everybody. Jonathan and I played some golf this weekend. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was just nice to I don't know, we're working so much and we're trying to do so much with Claw. It was fun to just get out on the course and just
totally
not have to worry about work or not have to think about the podcast.
Well, it's all work related in a sense, because we figure out things that are going to be the secrets, but it's not like we're having to talk about numbers and what we're doing with content and all that.
We didn't mention anything about content. It was really nice.
But then afterwards, we took what we did and we're actually going to throw that into some of it today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there was a lot of things that, at first I was gripping it a little bit too tight, which was affecting my kind of release, and I was hitting some big blocks. So I started kind of loosening up the grip pressure. So we're going to talk about grip pressure a little bit today, because we've talked about that a little bit before, but not enough. I feel like we need to talk about it a little bit more, and how it relates to tempo. And we're talking about Fitzpatrick, incredible tournament this weekend. Really cool. I mean, usually RBC, I don't know, it's just kind of it's the week after the Masters. Not a lot of really big names playing it, but it had big names because it's one of the prestigious events now. And Rory didn't go, and that cost him $3 million, which was not good. But it was cool. Rahm was there. Speith played really good. It's cool seeing Speith play good again. We're going to talk about his putting a little bit later, which is going to be really good. He's got good alligator arms. And so does Fitzpatrick. We're going to talk about his putting a little bit later too. But yeah, we got a lot of exciting stuff we're working on coming up. Where we got ClawIQ, which is basically educating your claws. So we've talked about before with claw code, and how claw code is basically the language of how to communicate with the golf club. So ClawIQ is basically if you didn't have a golf club at all and you just wanted to train your claws independently and give and educate your claws to what they're actually going to be doing in the golf swing, and then they're educated, and then now you just put a club inside of them, and it's wow, look at how good your swing is and how good the ball flight is. So how educated your claws are determines how good your swing is and how good the ball flight's going to be. So we think it's going to be a really cool way to just really understand that if you can understand what your hands are doing independent from the club, you're going to be a lot better off. Because we say, so many people are focusing on just the club, and it's they're trying to communicate with the club, and it's just, you got to learn how to get the claws right. So
the language is here to hear.
Yeah, exactly. It's the hand to handle the club relationship. So we're just going to get the hands first, get that perfect, and then we can do the handle to club, and it'll all just mesh perfectly. So we're working on structuring that right now, hoping that'll launch very soon. But that'll be a set of archive videos. If you're a club member, again, another reason to get one of these, because you're going to get a good deal with the ClawIQ, and if you're not a club member, you'll still be able to get ClawIQ. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming with content coming up. We're trying to get outside. The weather's been kind of sketchy. We just we had beautiful weather last week, but that just kind of dried everything out. And now we're just kind of going to get back at it with teaching probably this week. Maybe shoot a little bit of content with that. But yeah, we're ready to we got a lot of momentum going right now. The support we've been getting has just been unreal. We just want to just keep creating content. Where we got the podcast, which is really good, but again, we're trying to expand outside of this. We just did the preset video, which was us walking you through how to get the proper takeaway and the benefits of that. Showed off the gravity fit. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we just, like I said, we're just trying to expand the content. So yeah, let's just jump right into it though, because we're ready to talk about Fitzpatrick because boy, do we think that he is like close to being pinch perfect.
For sure.
He's got really good pinches. But we're going to talk about just his swing a little bit. And we are going to talk a little bit about his cross-handed chipping, which is very unique. You won't see this a lot. I think I remember like Chris Couch was a guy back in the day that used it.
Oh, yeah.
He was like one of the few guys, and VJ's done it a couple times too. But yeah, so we'll talk about that. And so, yeah, let's talk about Fitzpatrick, like major champion, starting to kind of come into his own. Always been a great putter. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the putting segment. But what's he doing so good in his swing? Like, really strong grip, which we love, right? I mean, great pinch with the lead hand, great notch, as we call it. So yeah, we're just going to talk about all that. So
when he talks about the notch, we'll start off with that. So the notch is the connection between the inner part of the index finger and the thumb. So it creates this seam, this V, we call it, right? But if you think about the end of it, like this little V is a notch. So it's like a resting place for the handle of the golf club.
Nice.
So when you think about with the lead hand, Fitzpatrick, when we talk about like his strong grip, he gets the fingerprint of his lead thumb like more towards like the trail side of the club opposed to like on top for the weak grip. And then from there, trail palm, perfect pinch.
A little weaker, right?
Well, it is, but when he gets the trail palm perfectly connected here, but he wraps the trail, like you think about like the meaty part of your palm pad here with the trail hand, and he gets that like onto the flat like seam that you create here with your index finger. So he gets that really pushing like this. You see it with Rory too.
Got it. Almost like a Ben Hogan kind of thing.
So like, if he matched it, this is what it would look like if he matched his seams like perfectly. See how strong my trail hand is? It's at my trail shoulder.
Yes.
So he prefers to get it a little bit more on top like this. But here's the thing. Patrick, and you see it with Rory, they kind of extend the trail index finger down the club like this a little bit from the viewer point.
Hook it.
Okay. And then they pinch elongated and then press. And so you see that the trail notch and V seam is pointing now more at like my trail ear instead of my trail shoulder.
Got it. And now what's he doing in swing with that? So
he just
really
keeps pointing down like we talk about in the code. And he allows the face to rotate just a little bit. It's not conscious. I would say he's just pushing, pointing down with like his notches, right?
Yes.
Think pointing fingers and thumbs in a sense, right? And then from there, lets it rotate 45 degrees back. Maybe it's only about, I'd say, 35. He doesn't get it all the way like toe up,
he's like
just a little bit toe down.
Yeah.
But from there, he does increase it because if you look at his lead wrist, he does not go into a flat lead wrist position at any point in his backswing
Stays cupped.
or downswing.
Yeah, right.
So he keeps the cup, and that's where, again, there has to be some kind of rotation. I think when he starts his backswing, you mentioned that when he addresses the club, it looks like he starts off in full ulnar.
Yeah, like
with like
down.
lead wrist. Yeah. Right. And then he takes trail palm, puts it on, gets his pinch. And I think from there, there's going to be a little push down pressure, so that will like drop the handle a little bit. But from there, he just maintains that. And he rotates a little bit, but there is a little bit of twist with the notches. So that's going to twist back. And then as he goes back from the takeaway, he just keeps it locked. He gets it like twisted way back. Yeah. So he's at like, I would say 60, 70 degrees of like twist from 45 at his takeaway.
Typically we like to see a little more like vertical, but he's like flat.
But one thing he does that I haven't seen very many tour players do is from here, he activates his pull, which is from his half backswing. It's actually really more towards 3/4 to full, where he activates the increase, but because the club is like really flat, and most golfer, you'd see him come over the top a little bit at least, he increases the pull and then drives the butt on back out perfect and gets to literally the most perfect pre-impact position you could draw up on like paper. I mean, like it's perfect.
Cup in the lead wrist.
The handle's right where it needs to be. The club head right where we talk about with pre-impact parameters. And that's it. And he releases it perfect, keeps the palms pushing, the pointer fingers and thumbs, the notches, they are working down, out, and around the handle, the palm pressure. And then he gets to a perfect locked arm, like post-impact at half follow through, and then rides it to the finish in perfect balance.
We talk about this a lot where if you have like a cup in the lead wrist at the setup with a stronger grip, at impact, he still has that cup in the lead wrist.
So we're going to dive right into this right now with him with the cross hand chipping, okay? So I watched his video on like why he did it or why he does it sometimes. And he said that his coach originally started off teaching him that in the full swing, just to kind of help understand how to utilize like the lead side of the body and stuff, right? And he started using it sometimes in like certain scenarios in short game, and that's what he still does. So he'll say that like if the lie is like uphill or downhill too much, or we'll say like the ball above the feet, below the feet, he may not do it because he probably has more like natural trust with this, but with keeping the face square and like a level surface, basically is what he's saying. Is like it's more consistent like a putting stroke. But yeah, it's interesting though, because he takes his lead hand in this and he gets it really over the club, like max extension. Like I would say he's at, like we talk about 230, he's almost at 3 o'clock here. And when he goes back, there's a little bit of twist. And when he comes through, the one thing I noticed is that he keeps the cup in his lead wrist, and his like back of his lead hand, like the knuckle pads, are basically pointing skyward, just like the face. And that's what we're gonna be talking about a lot too with our claw stuff with the short game. Is keeping the grooves to the sky. It's so just important with putting, short game, driving, mid irons, like the whole bag. Because of the support that we need, like for the golf club to work properly. The key thing that people are confused about is what are the parameters of where the handle is relative to your body and the ball. Because yes, if the handle's back of the ball and your body too much, you're scooping, flipping, coming over the top, not like the normal faults. But if the handle's in a certain position relative to the face, just after impact, after you've taken the divot and bottomed out properly, like that is the secret spot of the swing that nobody's really understanding. But it's the positioning of what we've been talking about with the claws, the handle, the face, you know, the effects.
Because people get kind of scared. They think like, oh, if I keep my cup in my lead wrist, I'm going to be scooping.
It's like, not true.
No, not if you're pushing like on the side.
It's well after impact to the ball.
Exactly. It's like, if you like let the club pass the handle and keep your cup in your lead wrist, well then now you're in trouble, which is why we always recommend like starting with a little bit of forward press and maybe a little more weight on the lead side.
One little throwback too from our round this weekend. I had a downhill slope, like maybe 20 feet again away from the pin, and kind of like weird brushy rough. And so I just made sure that at setup, I opened up my alignment of my toes and my body a little bit and added a little bit of open face, and just made sure that I twisted back the toe a little bit, pushing down, of course, on the handle and takeaway. And then just made this little move from like here start, like position wise, it's like here to here.
And just
push. And just tried to scrape the downhill slope and make sure that the like trailing edge and leading edge of the club face are like scraping properly. And I just stepped over it and was like, boom, boonk, and then make sure I like popped it with the trail. I'm going from bent to straight with the baby pop. It's like the baby pop, like for the little swings. It's like you get a little twist back, you're pushing, and then it's just like that little bit of trail arm acceleration to pin the heel and then to the toe of the face to the ground, and then drag it through impact. Like it just helps you on the hardest shots in golf. Like if you trust slopes, it never, all you have to do is then understand your body movements, or positioning, we'll say. So
back to Fitzpatrick, when it comes to his tempo, it's pretty quick.
Yes. Well, he's a little, he's not a big guy, right?
He's 5'10".
So, he's trying to create speed. He talks a lot about it. And I would say, you know, everything he's doing in his swing is really good because he has the proper activation of his claws. I feel like great notches, and like connection here, really and pushes. And then from there, it's like, you know, the down, the increase, holding it. Trail, I mean, you look at the footwork, the trail heel doesn't really come off the ground too early, release is perfect, keeps the connection. If you can control the whole move, you can do it faster, but when you get too fast, that's the thing, right?
So there's like you
have to allow the, like when you think about the club head from address, the club head has to lever back of the handle, right?
Yes.
And then when it comes down, it has to be able to lag, and then it has to be able to release down, out, and around the handle, right?
Yes, correct.
So for that to happen, if things get too quick with the body and the hands and arms in a certain way, then yes, it's going to be a problem. But with what he's doing, it must be working. He's a very analytical guy. So I'm guessing that he has like a metronome or some type of timing device that is literally perfecting his, like every step of his backswing from quarter to half to full, you know, and like
it's
he
calculated.
Knows when he goes there and he sticks his finish at a certain spot, like it's going to go a certain yard with
it's still
each
calculated.
club.
Like everybody, they look at, they're like, oh, cool, I'm just going to speed up my backswing. It's like, well, like you got to get
going
the proper
faster
connection
doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better because I'm a fan of the pause and we are too.
Yes.
Right. Like I feel like the tempo, when you think about like from the address, can you go too slow? You can, but in a certain way, like if you are like properly activating your claws and maintaining proper activation throughout the move, you can go as slow and as like you can pause for as long as you want, really. And then from there, you know what starts the move and then what ends the move.
Correct.
And that's all it is. So we can educate you on that. Two, we were talking about earlier, like if you get like faster momentum when you go back and you're just like pushing and doing the parameters we talked about, the way that the club head's going to be working up and back of the handle because you're concentrated like claw pressures. In the downswing, if your body, like lower body from feet and knees, start first at all, and your hands and arms just maintain even what they have, and then the hands and arms drive down out, which we're going to talk about this in a little,
with the karate chop.
Thing. It's like that is really all it takes to make sure that you ensure a proper connection to the golf ball from like the top, right? So that's it.
So if Fitzpatrick was off by just like a little bit and he sped it up like a little bit too much, now you would see like he'd probably like lose his gear effect at the bottom, and he wouldn't like have as much face control. So there's that spot where it's like, okay, the metronome stops like right there, and it never clicks faster than that.
Right. And I think what he does, like for short game, what you see with like Rom and some guys too, is that they just because of their natural setup tweaks, like narrow in stance for shorter shots, wedge game and stuff, and then swing length, it's like they basically just know that because it's that part of this like game that they're going to go just a little bit, like they're going at like a 5 instead of like a 7.
Correct. Yeah. And there is some benefit too of like, you see Fitzpatrick and he does a lot of like speed training and DeChambeau talks about this a lot, and Berkshire and all these long drive guys, where they try to max out like their speed as much as like humanly possible, where it's like there's not a speed you actually use on the golf course, but like push yourself to that limit to really like build that gear effect and that snap at the bottom and get that speed built in. So then you can kind of figure out like, okay, where can I like max this out where I don't lose control completely, but I also like am maxing out like my club head speed. So it's like you have to find like that line and push yourself with the speed training. And we're seeing a lot of stuff like that with like super speed and all these people that are just really trying to swing as fast as humanly possible to find like what is like their max and then find like what you can actually control in the golf course. Because those long drive guys, I mean, I watched them this week in the tournament that they did. I don't know where that was at. I think it was in like Florida or something. And Berkshire took second. Justin James ended up winning it. But you see how fast they take the club back. It's like, holy cow. Well, it's like Fitzpatrick.
Technically, it is proven that if you start the handle back first of the club head and reverse lag effect, it creates the maximum amount of handles or club head acceleration with hands too.
Right, which is kind of what Fitzpatrick
It's not like, for accuracy though. And I mean, if we ever have a subscriber that really wants to do it, like if they truly that's the way, I can help you understand how to make it work. But
it's tough.
But it's there's a way to make it work, but it's like just understanding how to control the gear effect in the bottom, like we're talking about, because the parameters they have, the best guys like Berkshire is really from like a strong grip standpoint doing exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly.
It's just like he's max claw.
He's got perfect notches.
He's using the toe to heel movement of footwork, which we're going to be talking about too.
Got it.
And it's like, that's it. Maximizing that, which is why he like rocks with his tilt first, toe to heel, gets the momentum going with the functional unit.
You're seeing a lot of people copy
catapults that.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of people copy that, like, because they're really starting to understand, like, get that flow of energy going.
Well, it's like the boosters.
Yeah, right. I mean, for boosters,
rock the motion and then, like, rock the unit.
The claws are like kind of like, whoa, like putting little nitrous on them.
It's that sequential energy though, and then you just basically, the ball, like you get that going, and then all of a sudden, it's like the ball's just in the way.
Yeah.
If you're trying to just get better at golf, just do what we're talking about and start off just being okay with hitting your drive like 250 to 300, like in a sense, because it doesn't take much at all.
No,
honestly, depending on how big you are, right? And like size wise, but that's why I say 250 to 300, because anybody can pretty much hit it 250 as long as they're like, a certain like adult size. And like
absolutely.
and growth.
Yeah. So typically what we do with the winners of the week is we're really just kind of describe like what that people can learn from Fitzpatrick, and what can they implement to their own game. And I think it goes back to the notches, right? Like, let's talk about the notches a little bit more, and we can get a little bit more in depth with them. is that, like, what is the benefit of having these notches? Like me and you just talked about a little bit down there where you're trying to create that pivot point around that like thumbprint and the pinky of the lead hand. So it's like the better you get that thumbprint on the grip, the better pivot point you have for the club to pivot around the handle. And we talked about this a little bit last week when you were talking about just like the lead hand only and the thumb and things like that. But like, what is Fitzpatrick doing that people can really like steal from?
So when you think about like the notches, again, it's the interconnection between the thumb and the index finger. And we're trying to get like the fingerprint of the thumb here of the lead hand at that 230 position, right? So we get that seam. And then what that does is ultimately like it allows me to push properly like against the button of the club with my lead hand pinky pad like this, which is my lever system. So it's like I'm constantly feeling that. I've already started down, but I still maintain that. It's part of the setup system, right?
Got it.
So then from there, it's like just maintain that downward pressure with the lead hand pinky pad at all times throughout the entire golf swing. You never let up at any point.
Ever.
Right. You stick your finish with it. And you still will probably be holding it well after your shot and you're walking away and you're like, yeah, that was perfect, huh? And it's like, hey, look at it. It's still in there.
Still clawed.
And if you look at pros, they do the exact same thing.
It's still clamped. You clamp
so
it
like
on
you've
there.
clamped the pressures. This way, again, like this notch, pinky pad and notch, like work together to control the handle movements. With the trail palm pushing against lead thumb. And then we have our trail hand notch as well. But it's like the notches and the palms are working together as a group.
So that.
But the lead hand, because it's more on top, it's a little bit more of the downward connection. The trail palm going against the side of lead thumb, and then also it pushes down a little bit like this with the radial to basically activate that full connection, so that when we address the ball, certain amounts of radial and ulnar are blended properly for how to address the ball, but also to how to start the club back.
Correct.
Right? Because the length of the club, as the club gets longer, you're naturally going to, like the angle between your lead arm down and like your shaft, like this angle, like this. Right? Yeah, exactly. That's going to be minimized because the shaft gets longer. So naturally, you're going to have less of an angle. Wedge is going to be the highest.
Yeah, wedge is going to be like this.
Putter is going to be more than driver.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So, and it's because of the use of face. Well, you know. But anyway.
But I like what you
the
just
idea,
said
though,
there.
like that's it. So it's like you get that lead hand connection, then trail palm again. You got the trail, you got notches, palms, doing what they need to do. And then we're pushing. Now, if we keep the notches,
and that's what Fitzpatrick's doing, like, incredible.
Pointing down, and then lock the arms, and then basically we increase max, like with the pull. Like, again, I like how he gets more inside, because for myself personally, I used to do that like a lot, and it used to get me in trouble because my lead arm would get out away from my body and it'd pull me off the ball. And, you know, that creates big hooks and stuff like that. But if you keep the lead arm a little bit more in, like he does, and then points down like this, twist, then transitions, but then also has like the best radial increase with driving back down out like this with both wrists. Like that steepness of that delivery on that shallow plane is like the gem. Like whenever I've hit my ball the best, it's like that's what I'm on too. And I feel
which is why he has like perfect gear effect and things like that. But yeah, the big thing is that the better that you have this lead thumb and better you have this notch right here.
And then trail palm against it.
Trail palm just pivots around
notches and palms, man. I'm telling you. So you got pinky pads, okay? Index pads. Pinky pads are like your palms, like pressure, like that's the main foundation, like the underparts of each hand, okay? Like your pinky pads. And so they're pushing down, and lead hand is on top. Like it will say it's like relative to vertical here, a little bit more over at like because it just like the feeling of getting on top of the club like this is just so weird, because we talk about the elbow, like lead elbow turning out. And most people, like they get here and they're like, all right, I'm really strong. It's like, no, you're really not. Like, so when you think about like this alignment on the club, it's like wrapped like over the top of the club, but on an angle, because these are turned on an angle. It's not a flat line unless you do a weak grip.
We always say, like, for our students, we want them to feel like the pinky pad is almost like on top, like straight on top. So if there was like a laser, it'd be shooting straight down into the ground.
Yeah, you got your pinky pad laser, your index pad laser, which is controlled by your notch pressure of thumb and index finger. So it's like lead hand, again, is like here, and then you've got like trail hand, or I'm sorry, the lead hand index finger pad, which is here. So it's like you have here to here, and then you go trail palm to lead thumb, and then trail index pad is like basically just under the trail side of the club, and then that's it.
Correct.
Then we have the activation of what we have to do in the swing. Just do the proper increases, with lever lagging, and then control the release, which is basically sustaining what you created,
right?
And just using the feet and knees properly from there to control it as it navigates its way down to the top to navigate the lag, and then the release is it.
Yeah, because when people understand that, the better they get this lead hand connected to the handle, the better pivot point the trail hand has to work around. And we always talk about the importance of trail hand and keeping the cup and the waiter position at the top, and then keeping the cup as trail arm goes from bent to straight. The better that this lead hand pivot point is, the better that trail hand can actually do its job throughout the swing, and it actually will create the proper effects of the proper gear effect and things like that. So, just get better pinches, get better notches, just create that push pressure, like we're saying. And really it's going to help a lot with grip pressure too, right? Talk about grip pressure a little bit, because that kind of goes into what we're saying with this. And at the setup position, I mean, you're saying where to push, but there's no your fingers, when you curl your fingers, like we say, you're not this, you're still keeping your finger extension, curling. How do you think about finger, grip pressure?
So we talked about lead thumb at that 230 position, right? So it's over here.
Yes.
And then if I wrap my fingertips, basically from the first, you have your knuckles, your pads, in a sense, is the exterior part of your pads, interior is on the inside. And then you have your first joints. The first joint should be basically curl. So when you curl your fingertips from here, it's the very tips are actually curling around the grip a little bit.
Yes.
Even if you have bigger grips, they're still curling up and back at you. But you want to get this club over so you can basically take the curls, press them against your pinky pad and your perfect notch.
Yes.
That's it. So you're trying to, once you press, so you could really do a test, because everybody's different. So your 1 out of 10, is different than maybe someone else's, right?
Correct.
So you go to 10, you squeeze like this. You can see I'm not changing format in my hand. I'm just squeezing my claws and my pressures against my pinky pad notch. Okay. Then go to 0. Okay. Maintain that. Now trail hand goes on trail palm against lead thumb. Get that proper notch formation as well. Then from there, keep the lead hand. You can squeeze both. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to, but you can keep it neutral. Trail hand press, max 10. Okay. Relax. Go back to basically a 0 again.
Yeah, see, this is what
a 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's you've already molded your connection to the club. So you don't have to worry about the club coming out of your hands. Now, keep your grip pressure at less than a 2 and perform the moves with keeping the hand, the proper formation of how the pinky pad and the palm and the notches are pushing against the club. They're pulling against the club. They're creating the natural gear gear effect force of the handle and club head around you, levering, lagging, and then releasing.
Yes.
And then that catapults it. But it doesn't take a lot of energy. It takes concentrated, perfected energy, which is what we have at Claw. So it's this is what we're trying to explain. And when you actually do it, this is when you get on the golf course and you hit those few shots and you're it just felt amazing.
Effortless.
Whatever.
Yes. Effortless
and then
power.
The one guy that we brought along too is pretty funny. He kept saying I had harmonious tempo, which is pretty funny because I do try to, I get my claws right. And then I feel where I need to be. Just you can feel it in your hands, like club face to handle to claw control. It all feels like a certain line.
Yes.
And then from there you start back, and then you start back slow because you just start off by doing the pushing and then stretching, doing all that, and then it's and then the body works in a certain way, and it really, as long as you start with feet and knees and stick your finish, you're good.
Yeah, and people are always asking me, and my students ask me this all the time, and I'm all right, in your backswing, push with your palms, and they're push against what?
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's you're pushing against your curls.
Of your fingertips.
Yeah. So if my fingers were all in extension and I just had my notches for my strong grip, it'd look like this. Can I hold the golf club? Sure. I can hold it like that. If I went down though, it'd be a little bit actually it's still okay.
Yeah.
But I have such good control. My pinches, I can still keep enough control of the club. And then it's back down and around. So again, I have certain control, but when I curl my fingertips, now I can press against the club proper effect is the whole super squeeze thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
By the way,
which why we like that. Yeah, shout out super speed.
And when it comes to tempo, we love lag shot too.
Well, of course.
And lag shot is like, I love it too because their grip is really tacky.
Yeah, it is tacky.
And it's bigger. It's like mid-size. The whole thing's heavy. It's got a whippier shaft. I think I'm seriously going to contemplate like getting an entire set from them if they can make it for me. But then it's like, just get the grip pressure. Again, you can still swing lag shot at a 0 to 1 on the scale of grip pressure. To. Well, it's not, you can squeeze it, but as soon as you do, then it's going to have like an effect. Like it'll be more of this effect opposed to being able to push and then let it like untwist in its way that it needs to.
Oh, I felt the big thing when I was holding the lag shot is that just starting the club back. If you start back too quick because your grip pressure is too tight,
then all the whip of the shaft is going to kick.
Then it's
that's what we talk about, like starting off with a little shaft lean forward always, every club, and then from there like just push down, out, and away, and like let the club head go around the handle from there, because pushing can happen so slow. You can do it as slow as you want. And it's a perfect way to start the lever.
Yes.
Because it's like from there, you can manipulate. Like if you break your swing down slow enough, like some pros, it's like you could literally go back and be like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
You could be that guy in tour and be like, all right. Look back at the ball and be like, all right, I'm good to go. And then hit it. And like you don't want to be that guy. But
we want to speed
just saying. I'm just saying. But I mean, like you literally won't have to take a practice swing. No. You could just stick your finish from there and you probably hit majority of your shots like perfect.
And this is why we like the idea with like ClawIQ of just educating your claws, because if you take the club away and you just take your claws and you do everything that we're saying with getting the proper activation of these knuckle pads and the proper notch, and you clamp those hands to each other, and you just imagine you're setting up to the ball, and now it's a little easier to kind of imagine where you're pushing with your palms, because your palms are like, you're not holding a grip. So it's like, it's easy to just push with your palms when they're like wrist to wrist, or even like how you would normally have your grip with a molded grip. But it's easy when you don't, like, that's why we like the claw ball.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's something to push against. So when you say like push with your palm, it's like, oh yeah, duh. Like my palm, palm to palm right now. But when you grab the grip, it's like, oh, it's so hard to concentrate your pressure to this like small surface area.
Cylinder, that's why most people navigate to more of a neutral grip in general.
Correct. So we talk about this all the time. Like what's actually like, we talk about the hands and like what they're doing independent from the club.
Right.
But it's like, everybody always asks us like, well, what about the body? Like, and we've done like the draining the water drills and the line up the clubs and things like that. You've seen all that in our content. But we don't talk a lot about the body, just because we do think a lot of it is the effect, but there does need to be some conscious thought. So what are some conscious things that people should be thinking about with the body?
Yeah, so the lead knee and lead shoulder have to work in a certain way in the swing, and it's very important that you do these simple things, which is in the takeaway we talk about, you don't really have to think about moving your body much. You just stretch the handle back properly with your claws and your functional unit. Right, exactly. And there should be a little bit of possibly like a pre-close or like there's some adjustments to your setup depending on the shot you need. Okay.
Yes, correct.
So we'll just say that in general though, you don't have to really think about moving your body in your takeaway. You just stretch the move. Right. Yes, exactly.
Stretch your functional unit.
But from there, as you go to the top, right, the lead knee and the lead shoulder should basically be working straight down and out towards like where they're starting at. So imagine like a little line going like this. Not, I mean, if anything, maybe a little bit this way, because you do see it with some tour players, but more straightforward. Never like, of course, that would never really happen. That'd be a weird squat move. But you would see more of the lateral knee action. That's the most common fault we see, right?
Correct.
So if you can just understand that, like, once your pressures need to be supported to the top, lead shoulder goes like down a little bit, and like the trail shoulder works up and around it. So the idea is like on a 45, if you imagine, if you had like a club across your shoulders, just like we talked about, we have that drill. Just go back in our content and watch it. But like just imagine like the lead shoulder pointing down out on a 45, which would be like on your target line, but about a foot in front of the golf ball.
Yes.
If the ball's in the middle of your stance, roughly. Okay.
And that's how you're going to control your low point.
Yeah. It's like lead shoulder, lead need to be moving this way. Trail shoulder and hip need to be moving like this, to control the centered rotation of the gear effect of the pushing pressure, the pulling pressure, the increase. From the top, you start with feet and knees, and it goes a little bit forward, but from the top of the swing, the hands and arms have to be, like, in a sense, accelerating aggressively at the same kind of rate of speed. Like, so the faster the hips go, the faster the hands and arms have to be driving down, out, and like to the ball. Like, we'll say like pre-impact, not just parallel to the ground. with the club, we'll talk about pre-impact being like the ball here. This is the point right before you make contact.
Oh.
Okay. So it's like basically the hands and arms relative to like your torso and your turn ratios,
Yes,
right?
right?
Like have to be matching somewhat close to be able to control the face.
Got it.
Because if the lower body does what it needs to and you're centered to the top and lead leg like goes from bent to slightly straight and you're like, you get in that proper post up as we call it, you're driving with the outside of lead ankle and the inside of trail ankle. You see this with all the pros, like how they keep the trail heel on the ground, but the energy is going laterally down the line to help them pin the face, right? So it's like, if you just get those basic things, it's like, that's really all we're looking for.
Yes, got it. And it doesn't have to be like, there's so many things that people are trying to like worry about of like, am I turning my hips enough to start the swing? And am I like, we're getting my back to the target enough? And it's like, these are really subtle things that we're like talking about. It doesn't have to be like this crazy big, like, oh my gosh, am I like getting 120 degrees of shoulder turn at the top? Am I getting my weight onto my right foot or trail foot at the top? It's like, just make it simple. Like the body movements need to be very subtle.
Yeah.
They are important just because you have to control your functional unit. And like Jonathan's saying, with the lead shoulder tilting down, that's to support what our hands and arms are doing.
So realistically, if I move my mic up a little bit, so here's takeaway. I've got the stretch, okay? And then from here, it's like if I go down and out, like with my lead shoulder like this, I can get to my half backswing position like that.
Yes.
And from there, if I can maintain that properly back to here, and then from there, do my move, that's basically all I need to be able to do.
Right.
That's it.
Got it. Yeah. Just make it simple for sure. Because like our big thing here at Claw is like, we want you to like have as many like, as least amount of conscious thoughts as possible. Like,
well, they have to be effective though.
Correct.
Too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the thing is that like we're not just saying something that's like just a myth or something. Like I'm telling you, like when we play golf, like when we're not doing well, we realize it's the same problems and we implement the like solution and literally instantly we're back on track. And it goes the same for all of our students too. I mean, like once you get the process down, you just have to follow it.
Correct.
And the more you follow it and practice it, the like more your game's going to benefit.
Which is why like when we play golf, it's like if we get a bad shot, it's like that's on us. Like we know like what causes that. And
there's
a lot of
a
our
process of
too.
analyzation, understanding what we have to do different, and then also like how well you implement it is how much you can like literally shake off the last shot and just like I like to just laugh really anymore at myself because I used to get angry when I was younger because I was like why
I really had no idea
but it's because I wanted the answer and I'm like I don't understand why I'm still hitting bad shots and because I don't know what I'm doing. But that's what we're also trying to help you with because as golf season again ramps up more, people are going through these same problems. So you know, again, no worries about any bad shots. Self-analyze, correct them properly with the processes that we're showing you, and then boom, smooth sailing.
It's kind of like a hot take when you think about like everybody says from the top of the swing, like, oh, you want to be like you want to be passive with your hands and just use like your rotation of your body. And here we are saying like, no, like you want to feel like you're like karate chopping almost. Like, can you walk us through that a little bit?
Sure,
like, it's
absolutely.
a big hot take, but
and I have a good drill too.
Yeah, and I want to just hear you talk about like how, I mean, we're different. Like we're saying get to the top of the swing and then push on the side of the handle and let the trail go from bent to straight and like karate chop the inner quadrant.
Okay, so watch yourself here, Ethan. So I'm going to go with my takeaway right here. So let's imagine again, like start off wise here to address the balls here, okay? So I'm going to like take the club back. If I was to go back a little further like this from the top, I want to feel like I'm driving, like I'm pushing down out with my hands. I like to, again, always feel like butt end just to kind of goes out at target line until the shaft gets parallel to the ground. I think it's just a great way to navigate your karate chop so that you're not just a little bit more vertical of maybe the backswing. Like with Fitzpatrick, the twist he has gets the weight of the club head so back like this.
So crazy.
That if he just holds back with his trail index notch, like basically this is what he's holding and it's perfection.
And then he just boom,
and then just boom,
as hard
like
as
drives palms, boom, great. But yeah, so, but from the top, yes, like as the feet and knees start opening and you get that energy, like it's down and out, like with the energies of the hands and arms, the claws, the handle, the club head, because we have to make sure that the functional unit gets back down to deliver what we have our only connection to, which is the handle and the club face. And our functional unit to it.
So why do people say like you want to be passive from the top and not think about your hands
because
and just leave them?
In my opinion, most methodologies that I see that being the common case, it's because of the weak grip in the bow.
Okay.
Because if you flex your lead wrist, you got the proper extension to the top.
It just
like the
falls.
face is shut. So as you open your body like this in a counterclockwise rotation, they basically are saying like you're naturally, if you're going outward with the club, the shaft is going to like, the club head's going to drop down because you're going to be driving the handle and the heel more outward. And because of the opening of force, like again, of the body to get you to square. And then you try to hold the face open as long as you can.
So the club's just falling behind you, basically.
That's the whole Genghis thing.
And then just like
of
rotate
like
as
from
hard
the
as
top, you see
possible.
this new thing of like this move with the pump drill from the top, like going from like here to like literally when we talk about butt end going out at target line, we're talking like almost parallel to the ground.
Yeah.
Like it's like this,
It's
which
crazy.
is again what
It's what
Fitzpatrick is
does.
doing.
Yeah.
So
He's just doing
and
it,
I
from
love
the
that
top.
feeling too with those.
It does
like
feel good.
we'll even just say we got the
Your
palms
notches.
pushing, we
Yeah.
got the lead hand notch, the trail palm pushing against with the trail hand notch, and when you get up to the top and you feel the notches drop back,
They're so
and they're
loaded
like
right
ready
there.
with the thumbs and the palms, it's like boom,
Boom.
and then you just feel that perfect
That's
gear
that
effect. It's so
karate chop.
effortless,
Yeah.
and it feels so easy, and everyone's like, you have that harmonious tempo.
Right. And that's why, I mean, you look at like, I mean, these guys that are talking about this on social media, like Trevor Salzman and all these guys, and they're just saying like you get to the top of the swing and just like you almost want to feel like the club just like falls like completely behind you.
It's true,
And
though.
then it's true, but man, I mean,
But naturally
it's
falling
tough to
from
time.
this kind of an idea, right, with like the bow, right, and the
Yes.
flexion, opposed to getting like your extension and the drop is this way.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
Like the toes down dropping, you got like this kind of a extension lead wrist with the
Like
radius.
Fitzpatrick.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you go to like bowed and weak, it's like you get here, and it's like this kind of a drop. So it's like this gear effect relative to this gear effect.
Got it. Yeah, and then I mean you basically can see like the gear effect that like Morikawa gets opposed to the gear effect that like Fitzpatrick gets. That's the difference.
Right. Yeah.
But they're doing really like technically from the top
Feeling the weight of the
exact
club,
same move.
right?
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's just when it comes down to it, though, simple.
Yes.
We have the hand to handle to face relationship, right? We're telling you guys about pinky pads, notches, each hand with how it controls like your knuckle pad placement and your thumb placement with those notches again on the club, just like this, perfect every time.
So
And with
perfect.
what that does, controls the handle, controls the club pad, controls our plane. It controls everything that we're talking about.
Yes.
And it's like, and that's where all the focus needs to be on, which is again why we're coming up with this new process. It's coming out soon with like the whole ClawIQ, and it's going to be great.
Just such a great way to think about it. Like if you can just all you got to focus on, if I blindfolded you and said like, okay, hey, you're just going to train your claws and you're going to understand like a very zen, like how to push, how to twist, how to hinge, like do all this right. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to just have you I'm going to put a club right in here and just do the same things. And then we're going to see on video, like, wow, look at, you got the perfect L position in the backswing. You got the perfect shallowness in the downswing. But guess what? All you had to think about was this. It's like connect these to your brain, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to worry about all this other stuff. Like these control your golf swing and how good of a golfer you can be. And that's why we're so excited about ClawIQ. And all the things we're doing with the claw ball and compact club and
no doubt.
all those things. So I think this applies to putting a lot too. So I think we should talk about putting. Let's
sure.
do it. Wrist lock.
Nice.
Shout out Super Stroke.
Actually.
So basically what I was doing is that when I was going back, I was really gripping it a little bit too tight, like with my fingers, like my curls were like curling into the grip a little bit too much, opposed to just pushing with the palms, like we say with like the prayer grip. And then when I was going back, I was getting really quick and the face was like almost like hooding in a sense. And then from there, if I didn't like get the like reroute it in a sense, then the face is just gonna be too shot. And I was pulling a lot of putts. I mean, I pulled the putt on number 1, pulled on 2. I mean, I can think of like 4 different putts that I should have made. But yeah. So 2 guys that do a really good job with the prayer grip and the pushing with the palms, Fitzpatrick and Speith. Let's talk about them.
Okay. So Fitzpatrick, I would say,
I like this wrist lock,
he's pretty much like palm to palm, like almost prayer grip,
He is like
basically.
prayer grip,
I
yeah.
mean, it's like this.
Alligator arms.
Which, of course, alligator elbows like this. And so I think that that's a great thing too. Like we've talked about with the Super Stroke, how it has this little like seam here, and it's great just to think about like the seams of your palms, the little bit of roundness that you have. Like here would be like technically perfect finger extension prayer grip like this. Okay. But if you overlap your fingers, you could go all overlap like this, and again, go thumb to thumb, palm to palm. Which is what
Fitzpatrick does.
Exactly. Or you could slide it down a little bit more, which is what I do. I just do a one overlap.
Correct.
And that's it.
And then, or you can go the other way and go where Speith goes and go that way.
Which is like, he slides it up this way, and then he does the same overlap. He has his, with his lead hand, he has his ring finger and his pinky finger basically overlap by his trail hand index finger and his middle finger.
Yeah, and he's pushing against the handle a lot.
Right. And I noticed too that he gets his lead hand a little bit more like on top of the putter, like this, opposed to like on the underside. So that's like his brace, and then trail hand is definitely underneath more.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. So he has like a strong trail hand position. He tuck the elbows. He has like a pretty good, like if you look at the top part of his lead forearm compared to the top side of his trail forearm, I would say the trail forearm is approximately like maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 degrees lower.
Right.
Gotcha. Like you can definitely see his shoulders a little bit like, closed, which is what you want, because then he has a pretty straight back, straight through stroke for a blade putter.
He does.
And Fitzpatrick goes toe down like Steve Stricker.
Yeah.
And basically allows for there to be no face rotation for
at all.
Like slightly face balanced putter.
Correct.
Which is what my also great student Jax, shout out, does as well.
Yeah. So, but it's like you just see,
control your ulnar.
Yeah. Fitzpatrick is really honestly why he's so good, and it's making more sense when I look at his putting, is that he just understands ulnar.
Yeah,
how to control,
it's how you lock your elbows together the most.
With his full swing too.
Right.
Like he stays in ulnar.
So it's like, here's putting, here's full swing. Yeah. Like look at the elbows. They really don't change like a whole lot.
The pressure is still the same.
The pressure is the same, just hand format for face control.
Yeah, so it's like we said last week with pushing with the palms with putting, you're pushing against more of the sides of the handle. But like we said earlier, you're pushing more like against like your curls, and your curls are not like on the sides as much. They're more like underneath and things like that. But yeah, it's just all about concentrating the pressure. And everybody's that's playing golf at the highest level right now is concentrating the pressure the best, whether it's holding a putter, whether it's how they're gripping the club like Fitzpatrick, where he's got the lead thumb on the top trail side of the club. It's like everybody's concentrating the pressure properly. And that's what we're trying to teach everybody here, is that once you get all these things that we're talking about with the claws and with the finger extension and the curls, now you can start to understand okay, they activates these pushers so you can clamp to the club properly, and you can start to understand how to direct those pressures. But you have to activate them properly so you know how to use them. Because if you just take your hand and go like this and this with lobster claws, it's like, okay, what are you really what pressure are you concentrating? Are you concentrating this big lobster claw, or are you concentrating these little knuckle pads placed against a specific spot on the handle? And that's the way you have to do a golf.
That's it.
Because you have to be precise. Like we said, you're concentrating the pressure against a particular part of this cylinder to create the proper effects of how the club levers, lags, and releases. And then you take a putter grip, same thing, pushing against it in a particular way to control how the putter levers, lags, and releases. Same thing, concentrating the pressure with the claws. Yeah. We're excited about ClawIQ. This is something we figured out recently, and now we're okay, we have to create something like this for people.
Yeah.
So,
concentrate your points of reference that are most important. Understand what they do to the handle, how it relates to the face, your plane, then the ball. All the live content for outdoor stuff coming very soon.
Yes.
And so get hyped for that and the ClawIQ. And we have 2 train aids and Claw Labs upcoming technically too as well.
We got a lot of things upcoming in Claw Lab too. We got we're going to start launching a little bit more information about some things that we're working on maybe outside of instruction. Maybe some cool games that we're working on. Can't give a ton of details on it.
Yeah, we got some cool other things, side things.
Yeah, we're cooking up some things in the lab. Claw Labs is not just training aids and physical products for golf instruction. We got a lot of things that we do here at Claw, not just instruction. We do art, entertainment, in technology. And yeah, we're going to just
and
really
games.
start. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're excited. We're just trying to expand our content, help out as much as we can. We got our message. We know what we want to say. Now we're just trying to find creative ways to say it. So yeah, hopefully everybody just understands the importance of getting these proper notches like Fitzpatrick.
Pinky pad placement to notches. Yep. Honestly, doesn't matter what grip up you want, but this has to be it. And then that gives you proper handle and club control. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Understand how to do the one. It controls the others. Boom.
Trailer goes from bent to straight. I mean, yeah.
Hand to handle face relationship all day.
So, all right, cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode.